Bio. We're continuing on with our second part of biomes, and so we're going to jump right in. Remember, we talked about our tropical rainforest and our tropical dry forest in our last video, and so the first biome we're going to lead off with today is the biome known as the tropical savanna, and this would be what we consider are the animals that we think of when we think of the Lion King. So this is what the tropical savanna is going to be. So another word for savanna is a grassland, and they receive more rainfall than deserts but less than our tropical dry forest. So they are kind of in the middle towards the lower end of the amount of rain that they receive, and they are covered with grasses, and so they have very compact soils, they have fairly frequent fires, and the action of large animals prevent them from becoming dry forest. So that means that there's a lot of big animals in this part of the world, and therefore there's not going to be a lot of tall trees because they kind of would keep everything kind of stomped down almost. So there's not going to be a lot of forest action, just a lot of grasses that are going to be found in this biome. And so some of the abiotic factors that set this biome apart is that they have very warm temperatures, and they have seasonal rainfall, so that's a big one, that there's always going to be a wet season and a dry season. They have very compact soil, which was just said, and they have frequent fires that are actually set by lightning strikes. So we think around here, anytime we see lightning, we think rain, so how could a fire get started? Well, there could just be a lightning storm to where it'll strike an area where there's been extremely dry and it'll actually start a fire. And some of the dominant plants that they have is they have tall grasses, they have drought and perennial, means that they come back year after year, and they have drought tolerant or fire resistant trees or shrubs. So trees that can withstand fire and can live without a lot of water. So they have to have some tough trees and shrubs that live in this part of the world. And some of the wildlife that you can see there, again, this is going to sound like a lot like what you see in the Lion King. So there's lions, there's leopards, there's cheetahs, there's hyenas, there's jackals, animal called aardvarks, a very weird animal, elephants, giraffes, antelopes, zebras, baboons, there's different types of eagles, ostriches, weaver birds, and storks. So again, we're going to take more an in-depth look at about these animals in class, as well as some of the plants. So if you don't know all of those, that's fine, but because we will take more look at them. And then there's large parts of Eastern Africa, well, is going to be where you find this. So and then also in parts of Brazil and Northern Australia. So the big one is the kind of the African savanna, is one of the most famous biomes that we have. So our next biome is the desert, and we can't be confused with desert. When we think of desert, we think of high temperatures. However, there are some very cold parts of the world that are considered deserts, because the main defining characteristic of a desert is that it is dry, and means it has an annual precipitation of less than 25 centimeters. So there are parts of the world, even though that they're covered in ice, that they receive less than 25 centimeters of precipitation a year, so they are still considered to be deserts. But the most famous deserts, the one that we're going to focus on, the ones that actually have a lot more life in them, are the hot, dry ones that you think of. So deserts will vary greatly, and some will undergo extreme temperature changes during the course of a day. And so because of these temperature changes, the organisms in these biomes can tolerate extreme conditions. So they have to be ready for extreme hot as well as extreme cold. It's kind of a tough life to live in the desert, but there are in fact quite a bit of life there. So the abiotic factors that determine that make a desert what it is that it has low precipitation, variable temperatures, meaning the temperatures change. There's soils that are rich in minerals but poor in organic material, so there's not a lot of dead plant and animal matter hanging around, but there are some nutrients and the minerals in the soil. And the dominant plants would be cacti, or cactuses, and then other plants with short growth cycles, because it's kind of hard to be a big plant when you don't have a lot of moisture. Cacti are the main ones that have survived to live in the deserts. And some of the dominant wildlife, there are mountain lions that live out in the desert, there's gray foxes, bobcats, what are known as mule deer, antelopes, bighorn sheep, kangaroo rats, there's various bats, owls, hawks, roadrunners, so the roadrunner is an actual bird that is capable of flight. There's ants, there's beetles, there's butterflies, flies, wasps, so a lot of insects found in the desert. There's tortoises, which is just a big turtle, rattlesnakes, and lizards, again, all found out in the desert. And the main places we're going to find these are in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, United States, Mexico, South America, and Australia. So deserts are found all over the world. And so our next one is the temperate grasslands, and these are characterized by having a rich mix of grasses, what you know, with fertile soils, and they have periodic fires, and heavy grazing by large herbivores will maintain the characteristic plant community. So again, there's not going to be a lot of big trees, mainly just grasses found in the grassland. And the abiotic factors, they have very warm to hot summers, cold winters, and moderate seasonal precipitation. So that's just kind of a decent amount of rain, not a lot, not really a little. And they have fertile soils, and they will have occasional fires in this part of the world. And the dominant plants would be, again, perennial grasses, which come back year after year. And a lot of these are resistant to drought, fire, and cold. So they're very tough plants living in these grasslands. And some of the dominant wildlife would be coyotes, badgers, pronghorn antelopes again, rabbits, prairie dogs. So another name for these grassland is just the prairie. And there's different cattle that live out there. There's hawks, owls, bobwhite, which is a quail. There's actually a type of prairie chicken, mountain plovers, which is, again, that's a bird, snakes, ants, and grasshoppers. And the different parts of the world where you're going to find this would be in Asia, North America, Australia, Europe, and the upland plateaus of South America are all going to be home to grasslands. So our next one is the temperate woodland and shrubland, and this biome is characterized by a semi-arid climate and a mix of shrub communities and open woodland. So shrubs are just going to be kind of like shorter trees, almost mixed between a tree and a bush, and large areas of grasses and wildflowers are interspersed with oak trees. And then there's communities that are dominated by the shrubs, are also called chaparral. It's just another word to say an area that has shrubs. And the growth of dense, low plants that contain flammable oils make fires a constant threat. So there's always a possibility of a fire with these low-growing plants because of some of the flammable oils that actually just grow naturally in them. So our abiotic factors, we have hot, dry summers, and there's cool winters with a lot of precipitation. There's thin, nutrient-poor soils, and as well as periodic fires, which fire just periodic means they could happen at any period of time. And they have dominant plants would be shrubs and herbs that grow during winter and die in the summer. So kind of almost like an opposite of what you would think, because usually your plants grow in the warmer months and then die off when summer or when winter comes around. And some dominant wildlife would be coyotes, foxes, bobcats, mountain lions, black-tailed deer, rabbits, squirrels, hawks, California quails, warbler, which is a type of bird, lizards, snakes, and butterflies. So it sounds like a lot like the same type of wildlife we have here in the middle here in our in Illinois here. We have western coasts of North and South America, areas around the Mediterranean Sea, South Africa, and Australia are all going to be home to these type of animals. So that's it for our second part of biomes. We'll finish it up tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions.